For the first time ever in my life, I'm not a social media guy, I'm doing that live stream on Facebook. I feel like I'm a rock star doing that. Okay, we are live. Make some noise, buddy! Just wanted to feel like a rock star once in my life. Okay, everyone. Oh, low network connection. Reality check. Yeah.
Where is it connected?
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. I know you guys are busy schedules and agendas, so I really appreciate that you take the time for coming for the community. One thing that is very important to say, that whatever we're going to talk about tonight is not as relevant as the simple fact that you came, that you are here, and that by that you show that you care. Sorry. Can't continue live video. Okay. My mom will be disappointed. So we are very honored because we have a very special guest. His name is Jeff Chatterton. If you check the event, you saw his profile. The one thing that you don't know is that he came specially for us from Canada. So he's really an expert in crisis communication and how you handle with major crises. I'll talk about him in a and he'll be sharing with us really valuable practical tips on how we can handle this situation better. So that's the goal of today. The first thing I want to say is we are the ones we've been waiting for. We have all we need to tackle this crisis, and no one is going to come to save us. So all we need to do is show up like you did and exchange and brainstorm and engage and disagree and come up with solutions, because that's all there will be. And that's really the idea for tonight, is to plant a seed and share you one of the initiatives that could be part of the solution. And then, you know, it happens to be a stage, but this aim at being a community event. So please interrupt me or interrupt Jeff, you know, ask any question, disagree, it's all what it's about tonight. Just want to thank our sponsors who offered accommodation to Jeff during all his time, and to betelNut for hosting for free this event for us. So thank you guys, you're awesome. Same with Joglo yesterday. I want to say a few words about who's behind, and I'll be quick, who's behind this initiative and what we do. We are business owners who share the same vision for Bali, common values. We care. We understand that if we want to grow our businesses, we need to preserve the very reason people come to Bali. If we don't do that, eventually we're gonna hit the wall. So that's a group of people. We've got restaurants, shops, yoga centers, resorts, 5-star resorts, individuals, travel agencies. We've got EXO here with us tonight, who's part of the membership. We've got, you know, any type of organization. What's great about these people is they are supporting each other. They are sending business to each other, so it's a very pro-business initiative, but they're also solving their problems. You want permaculture setting? Go see John in Bali Eco State. You need to improve your search engine optimization? Ask Valentine in Bali Eco Delhi in Nusa Lembongan. Everybody has a superpower. And when you give it to the community, it comes back in ways you cannot even start to imagine. So that's the power of the community. The reason I mention it is not so much to tell you about it, it's just to tell you about a little bit about me and what I do. I build communities. I engage with people, I get them together, I get them to brainstorm, to have think tank, and then I come them with actions, with things that are going to be done. I'm a doer. I'm not so much about long conversations. I like to brainstorm and then take actions. I just want to show you a few of the initiatives. You will see that some of you will be familiar with. But this is how it works. We meet once a month, and for the full day, we brainstorm. And we have a topic. It can be about eco-construction, permaculture, TripAdvisor, anything. And we have experts that come and that share their knowledge. And then we have little committees on education, waste, water, soil, and we brainstorm solutions for Bali. So we support each other, we find solutions for each other, and then we take tangible plans for a better future for Bali. One of the initiatives we had is called Think Outside the Trash. We did that 2 years ago. And the idea was to get businesses to sign a pledge to improving their operations. Our principles are very, very clear. We don't work with the eco properties. We work with anyone who wants to make a change, who wants to improve. That's enough for us. So we're not an elite group of any kind. We are happy to inspire each other. That's really very important because some people say, oh, that's just for the greenies, I don't want to be part of that. We don't have that attitude. On the contrary, I want to have an impact. So we are working with Swissbell now, we're working with Tosia Group, and I love it because there we can have a huge impact. So not necessarily working with the committed businesses in sustainability, but anybody. And having that open-minded attitude allows us to, break the barriers. So with the pledge, you just go through, I think it's 20 points saying either you do it or you commit to do it within 1 year. And that gives you a guideline on waste management. Because, as you know, waste is one of the big topics here, and people tend to blame the others about that. But I think there's only one person to be blamed for the waste in Bali, and that's me, or you. But that's the only direction you should be pointing fingers. And if we have that attitude, that's how we can make a change, through inspiration. We also started Precious Plastic Bali. It's a tangible, practical solutions to plastic waste management. We made a machine that can shred plastic waste that is then being sold back to the plastic industry. The idea is that these machines are purchased by businesses, Ritz-Carlton, for instance, just kidding, and then they put it in their bed jar, they empower someone locally that will then have a business and will purchase plastic waste from the locals for 2,000 rupiah a kilo. As long as it's clean and dry, two of the main problems of plastic waste. Then they sort it in the 9 types of plastic, third problem of plastic waste, and then they shred it, it's volume. So we solve all the problems of plastic waste with this simple machine. It's a $1,000 machine. So it's being in operation in Sebatu Sanctuary, one of our members, and we sold already 20 at cost. It's going directly to the people who've built it. And we've done that with Udayana University, so it's a kids project. Another initiative that we started is Refill My Bottle. It started in Bali, it was Refill Bali, and now it's in 10 countries. It's very simple. We go around and we put stickers in front of places that are happy to offer water. It can be gallon water, filtered water, it can be water for free or for sale. I don't care. Our bottle is plastic bottles. And yeah, it's picking up. But what is very interesting is that we have gatherings with all the people that have signed up for it. And the fact that they've signed up for Refill My Bottle just tells me that they care. And that's enough. That's all I need. I need the intention. And we gather them and we get them to connect with each other, which is something that we don't do enough. Give you an example. We've started it in Nusa Penida. And once a month, the business owners who are on the map are meeting. They're not talking about what we do, they're talking about waste management on their islands and the issues of tourism that is growing. And now they're setting up standards for any business who wants to open in Nusa Penida. So it's an excuse, it's just an opportunity for them to get the community together. So everything I do is always around that same idea of we need to come together and then the magic will happen. I don't even know what it will be, but as just connecting our brains and exchanging, this is how we can do it. So that's how we came up with that campaign, I Am in Bali Now, which is very, very, very simple idea, and that's why it will work. The idea is to ask people to take photos of themselves with their phone in front of a beautiful location, saying, I am in Bali now. And with that, post it and share it with your friends and with their friends. And what it does, it's flooding internet with beautiful, positive stories about Bali. But it's important because it's stories people will believe. The tourism board can come up with any story they want. I can tell you any story you want. I have a business in Bali, no one will trust me. Of course I will tell you, come to Bali, it's safe or whatever. I have a good reason for it. I need to feed my kids. You won't believe me. But if your friends are posting photos, beautiful settings, like, yeah, I'm in Bali and look, I'm happy, it's great, whatever, in any situation, that's a very powerful message. So we've got 20,000 people who've used it so far through hashtags and photos. And the whole idea, one of the ideas of tonight is to engage the community into embracing that campaign. So we'll tell you about how it can be done, but basically take a piece of paper, write I'm in Bali now, go on our Facebook page, print a sign I'm in Bali now, and that's it, move on with it. So what we do, we've added the hashtag of the businesses that support it. So we have the hashtag here, betelNut Cafe, betelNut Bali. So those guys here, now they have a good reason to do it. So if you do the same and you put Ritz-Carlton on it, now all of a sudden it's smart marketing. Because not only you're doing something good for Bali, you're joining a positive initiative, but you're promoting your business. And I have to honor your prime goal, which is to save and promote your own business. So that's one way that you can take ownership of those initiatives. Okay? But where are we going with that? That's just the beginning. The idea, and it's maybe a bit controversial, but I'm very happy with the volcano to erupt. And again, I'm hurt. I'm not making any money with my business anymore. We're struggling. But at the same time, this is a huge opportunity. The opportunity is to take ownership of our destination. Is to, for once, have the possibility to come together and decide what kind of tourism we want for Bali and shape it and decide where it's going. So we've started a page called Bali Tourism Think Tank into the Future, and that's for the industry, that's not for the public. And there we will be brainstorming how we can do that. And each of us will have an idea. We had these meetings before and someone said, well, I know someone at the airport and I could reach out to them. Someone else said, well, actually I know one of the candidates to be governor, and I think that would be a good start. So wherever ideas could come up, we could decide what we want for Bali. Instead of complaining, standing back and saying, letting mass tourism take over and nationalities we don't want or whatever that is, it's not constructive, it's not positive, it's not going anywhere. Instead of that, we can embrace it and pivot it and orient it in the direction we want. And I'm telling you what, it's going to work. And you know why it's going to work? Because it worked before. I didn't invent this campaign. I got inspired by existing campaigns that worked in Nepal and in Ecuador. In both cases, it's exactly the same. I'm just taking the book, applying, doing the talks, doing exactly the same. 6 months after they started the campaign in Nepal, it got taken over by the government. And it became the national campaign and the way to promote the destination Nepal. And that's more viewed than the official website that the tourism put up. Why it's working? Because it's real stories of real people. That's what you want to read at the end of the day. That's much more inspiring than anything. And that's the vision for this campaign. That we create a momentum, we get traction, we get the industry to come together, and then the government will embrace it. So that's no vetted agenda, but we could inspire them. So we're not complaining, we're not pointing fingers, we're just showing what it could look like. So we're getting the template, and we have a balinow.org that's going to come up hopefully in the coming few weeks. And yeah, then we get bloggers to write about it, and we'll be taking the content that we find on all other websites, and we'll just put it, just positive and lighting stories about the volcano and about Agung. One little reflection about the volcano, and I know Jeff is going to touch it in much deeper later, but people are trying to avoid the discussion around the volcano and say, well, let's not talk about the volcano, there are so many other things about Bali, and they think it's maybe a negative thing. I'm telling you what, the number one reason people come to Bali is the volcano, and it's always been the volcano. The only thing, you don't know about it. You didn't realize it. I didn't realize it until recently. People come to Bali because they want transformation. They come to Bali because something is special here. They come to Bali because you can do a shift, and that's the only place you could have done Eat, Pray, Love, etc., etc., etc. Why is that? Because this land is alive. because we have a powerful volcano that is moving everything, that is growing the rice faster, that is changing the landscapes, and it's a jungle after 2 weeks in your backyard. Well, that's the volcano. And that's the positive story. And all of a sudden, you want to tell your travelers, now is the best time to come to Bali. Whatever you want to do in Bali, now you're going to get it an even better experience, a better transformation. And if you do that, you own the narrative. You don't let things happen to you. You are proactive and you tell an inspiring stories. And that's what people want. And that's not my idea, that came from one of those meetings. So that's the kind of thing we want to do. The next step is to reach out to international trade shows and copy their campaign, which they did last year in 2015. It says, I wish I was in Bali now. So now we're talking to people that are outside Bali, that have been to Bali, and that can support this initiative and post inspiring content. And the next one is, I am going to Bali. People that are planning the job, travel agencies, they have booked. Cool, you send them the sign, they can post a photo before they leave. I'm going to Bali. Ritz-Carlton, they have booked their stay with the welcome, thank you for booking with us. Here is a nice campaign that we all come together. If we all do that, imagine the quantity of imagining positive stories that we belong. That's social media, guys. That's how we own the narrative. That's how we can bounce back even stronger. So, a few other things that we're doing. I don't want to take too much of the time for Jeff. But basically, you're going to hear tonight that we should drop the Bali safe story. No one is listening. No one wants to hear it, and you've heard it, and you can have Jokowi with a coconut on the beach. It's not going to help. Because, well, Jeff again will touch it, it's just missing the point. You're answering the fear of the people with facts. That's not going to work. If you're in relationships, you know that the prime concern of your partner is to be heard. Well, guess what? It's exactly the same with your travelers. They don't want you to address them from a position of superiority or convince them. No, they want to know that you got them, that you can receive them, that whatever happened, I got you. So we started this page, which will move to the other website that we showed before when it's going to be live. But basically, it's a lot of content about what if the volcano erupts? Where do I get the mask? What happened in the previous eruption in Ubud? Were there ashes? And all the questions you can think of, we're putting them there. And it's funded and created by the community. So if you feel there is something that is missing or you want to add, which insurances are good, which airlines are coming, where do I find good information, blah, 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 blah. One destination so we can give them the facts, only the facts and real information about the volcano. So, a few tips. Never say Bali is safe. No one will believe you. So you can really drop it. We've seen it over the last few months. It's not working. We can just respond to emotional fear with emotional response. Okay? Number two, get the travelers to share their stories, experiences instead. And that's a great opportunity for people in the tourism industry. Because that's great, that's free marketing. You want to get testimonials posted on your website. You want written testimonials, all these things. This is great marketing for you guys. And at the same time, you're going to be sharing stories that people want to read. And you're going to have great content that is really what we all live for. I mean, look at those real-time videos being taken on the internet. Even if it's a boring show, you're going to watch it. It's live, it's a reality. That's what you want. If you know there is a scenario and it's made up, it's boring. It's not what we want. The only way we can win over mass media is by owning the narrative. There's nothing else we can do. We can complain and whinge, that's not going to help. We need to cover bad news with good news. Bad stories with inspiring stories. That's the only thing we can do. And guess what? If we do it, it's going to be the first time in the world that we can prove that a community came together and owned the destination. And guess what? That's what Bali is all about. We rant about community here, community there. Come on, let's apply that. Let's show the Balinese that we actually learned something from living here. And it's time to give back, but giving back really. Giving back with our heart, with our soul, with our understanding of what they're all about. And that's the best way you can share your understanding of the local culture. Yeah, imagine the story for the press. What a great story, what something to show. People coming not to complain, because that's what groups like to do. No, to positively promote their destination and own it and solve their problems. We're going to talk about that. It's very important that you try to understand your guests. They are misinformed, they are scared, you need to address those issues. So the whole idea of, it's only one part, don't worry, that's not it. So just stick to the facts, show that you own it, that you got them. I can give you one example that we have started. It's called We Got You campaign. We're getting the hotels to do 3 things. One, if the people are stuck because the airport is closed, they can stay for free in the hotel. Free stay. We got you. Number 2, if availability. Number 2, if they cannot land, we reimburse them. So Booking.com doesn't do it. My hotels do it. The 25 hotels that have signed this pledge do it. You cannot come? Just send us a screenshot of your flight, boom, we'll reimburse you. No question asked. Well, guess what? They're driving direct bookings this way, which is what little operators want to do. And finally, we got you, we'll get you out of Bali. The number 1 fear is not to be able to go to work on Monday. Well, we answer that. Each of the hotels coordinate to get them to the nearest airport, make sure that we get the flights, or find a solution to the best of what is available, but at least we're committed to it. Things are not perfect, the situation is not ideal. The only thing we can do is come together to improve the solutions. So the government has done their best, and there are things that needs to be improved. Great, we can suggest solutions. That's how we can improve the things. And very important in terms of marketing for you, when you do all that, people will listen to you. People will want to connect with you. You're a travel agency, you do it better than the others, people will want to book with you. That's the best way you're going to promote your travel agency. Your resort. Why should I book your resort rather than another? I know with them I'm going to be safe. I know they're going to take care of me. No one else is promoting that. The press, the bloggers, everybody will want to talk to you. You're an authority. You own the narrative. You're strong. And that's what everybody wants to talk to. So Jeff will touch it in more detail, but if you're doing it, stop right now. Don't reduce your prices. It doesn't work. And it's going to hurt you big time on the long run. And Jeff will touch it, so I'm not going to ruin his talk. Talk about the volcano. People want to understand the volcano. People had Raj from Nepal last week, and he's surprised. Why aren't there a meetup every week around the volcano? If I had a restaurant, I'll do that. It would be packed. That's what people talk about. They want to talk about the volcano. I give you a volcano. I'll host a weekly talk around the volcano. Have a beer. That's how you're going to do it. Talk about it. Don't hide it. So the more if you have a travel agency, people want to see the volcano. Where do I take the best selfie about the volcano? Give me a map of the best selfie spots. Cool. Do talks about the volcano, explain what it's all about and the impact, and have healers tell you the power of the land, all these things. That's what people want to hear. So do that. And kill the word safe. One of the initiatives that came from Shanti Travel, one of our members, I love it, is called Clean Bali While It Is Empty. I love even the way it's said. Every Friday, gather your team and spend 2-3 hours cleaning your neighborhood. We have all the support from Eco Bali, Bali Recycling, Trash Heroes. We coordinate it all so we can sort the trash, and then the different upcyclers can reuse it, etc., etc. So we can imagine the communication that would be around this. All of a sudden, every Friday for the next 6 months, people, little groups all around the island are actually cleaning their area. People, it's a big issue. We can whinge about Jakarta and about the sea, and then nothing will happen. Or we can take action. Even if it's not the solution, we're showing the way. We're initiating a movement, That's something that people will relate with. It's great marketing. And again, you're going to show the world that we are doing that as a community. So now, very practical tips for you to take away. The things that you can do. Get the logo, add your hashtags, add your logo, and print. You've got a budget, great. If you don't have a budget, help find a budget. Print as many signs as you want, and get them in the hands of people that can be connected with travelers. Every guide at Exo Travel should have 2 of these sites in each car, with an explanation of what it's about. You know, half an hour training, what it's all about. And then you tell travelers, take a cool shot, a selfie, Jetty Louis, nice places with it, and post it and share it with your friends using Exo Travel hashtag and Shanti Travel. Great marketing for your brand and very efficient because it's a collective action and we're going to be flooding the internet with that. Very, very easy. And then fly with it. We were with Finn's Beach Club yesterday in Canggu. They're going to do a selfie stand. The joke said, I don't know what to do with my wall. I'm going to ask an artist to do a tag, I am in Bali now. So, you know, be creative. Yoga Bar is doing, Yoga Barn is doing carving in coconuts. And people can take photos with the coconuts. Yoga Barn and I am in Bali now. You know, endless initiatives. We're going to have weekly meetings. The idea is not to have talks, but more gatherings where people take action. You know, we had one last week. We say, okay, what do we need to do? Okay, you want to do a movie? Okay, you're in charge of the movie. You think we can reach out to you've contacts at the airport? Boom, you're doing that. It's really, you know, I have a business to run, so this is not my thing. We need to do that together. It's a community initiative. No one did it, kickstarted it. It needs to be taken over by the community. That's what it's about. All right, guys. I'll be taking questions if you want after the talk of Jeff. So I'll be introducing Jeff now. So yeah, again, a few months back when the volcano erupted, I was all over the place trying to think, okay, what can we do? And I do a lot of marketing, and if people who do marketing here is we never invent anything. You know, we just find inspiration online, and then we just adapt it. And I reached out to the community, and thanks to Carol, who's here, she introduced me to Jeff. So through the network, said, this is the man. Whenever there is a plane that crashes, the next day, behind the guy who's reading the information on the TV, Jeff Chatterton is here. And I reached out to him with little hope that he would answer, and within minutes he said, yep, I'm happy to jump on a Skype call, no problem. A week later, we did a webinar, and he said, you know what? It's cold, it's January, I'm from Canada. I don't know if you've been in Canada in January, I haven't, but apparently it's not as nice as in Bali. I could come to Bali and talk to your crowd and see and share my tips. I said, yeah, fantastic. So that's where we are now, with Jeff sharing his really practical tips and ideas on how you can bounce back even better. So really open up because it's very, very good. Thank you, everyone. That's it for me. See you later. Jeff?
Yeah, isn't this awesome? I'm in shorts, right? So, a couple quick little ground rules. I don't do formal anything. Clearly, I'm in shorts. But if you have questions, just yell at me. Don't even raise your hand because, quite frankly, I can't even see you. So if you have just yell, and I'll yell back, and we'll have fun. It's all good. We're not turning this into a presentation. We're having a conversation. So. It's a presentation for tourism companies that are in the middle of crisis. I want to ask a couple of quick questions as we dive in. Fingrid, is this you? I mean, a quick show of hands, if I can squint my way through the stage lights, how many people are worried that don't have enough people coming in through their doors, right? Whether it's clients, whether it's guests, beds and heads, you know, it's a problem. I took this after the boarding doors closed on my flight from Singapore into Bali 3 days ago. That's a pretty sad-looking airplane. It's a problem. It's a legitimate problem. There's some real sad stories going on out there, and this is not what we want to be seeing. I mean, it was great. I got the entire exit row to myself, but that's not a good thing. I have been working in crisis communications and in tourism crisis communications for the better part of the last 2 decades, and I have been there. I have done that. I have seen it. I'll tell a little bit more about me later on. Suffice it to say, in 2017, I had active projects on every single continent, except Australia, and I'm fixing that because I now have a project in Australia coming up in March. So I've been there, I've done it, and the questions and the comments that I hear a lot are, what are we going to do? You know, how are we going to keep the lights on? How long can we go before we have to start laying off our employees? You know, that sense of, you know, why isn't the government stepping in? Why isn't, you know, tourism, you know, Bali stepping in? Why aren't people doing anything to help us? And then at the end of the day, you didn't do anything wrong. That's the frustrating part. It's okay if your business is getting absolutely cut off at the knees because you were being a dick, but you're not, right? You didn't do anything to deserve this, and it hurts, and it's frustrating as all heck. And if that's you, I have good news, because at the end of the day, you're just using the wrong strategy. That's really what this is boiling down to. There's a completely manageable way to completely fix this as long as you use the right strategy. Let me fix this up for you. Right now you think the problem is that no one is visiting, and so therefore you're losing money. And it's understandable that you would think that. But the analogy I like is, you know, the story about the guy who's wandering along the beach, and he sees someone, you know, nearly drowned, washing up in the surf. And he comes across and, you know, picks him up and he carries him over to the rock and sits him down and he goes, you know, buddy, but what happened? What are you doing here? And he goes, oh, I was up in my rowboat and I nearly drowned. You know, there was a massive storm, I nearly drowned. He goes, okay, well the problem is not that you were in your rowboat in a storm. The problem is you just need a bigger boat. That's what's going on. You just need a bigger boat. Because right now it's a volcano. Last decade it was the terrorist attacks. Next week it's going to be wildfires. The monkeys are going to go crazy. You pick something. I guarantee you, the one consistent thing you will always have, especially in the tourism industry, is crisis. And if you're not prepared to be able to resolve and fix that, you're going to be dealing with this constant up and down and constant up and down until you do. You need a bigger boat. So, a little bit about me. This is me a few years ago in Serengeti, Tanzania. There's a cool story behind this picture I will tell you later. I'm Canadian. I maintain that there are certain ethnic persuasions you always want to get for different things. Carol is here, and we want the French to be in charge of our cooking and our wine, right? We want the Americans to be in charge of our sports. We want Canadians to be in charge of our crises, especially in the tourism industry, because I'm kind of the happy medium. Most of your marketers are Westerners. I speak both European and North American. We are aware that the universe does not end, and there is more than just the 50 continental United States, with all due respect to the Americans who are in the room and staring at me and shooting daggers, but at least you're here in Bali. I have 5 rules that I have, in my experience, working with tour operators in everywhere from South America to Europe to Asia to Australia and North America. The 5 rules that when you are in a crisis, especially a crisis not of your own choosing, that if you make these changes, I consider them to be absolutely life-changing. It's 5 shifts to the way you communicate. And when you make these 5 shifts, your life's never going to be the same, because you're going to build yourself that bigger boat. You're going to be able to handle the ups and the downs. You're going to have a steady and consistent stream of revenue, of passengers, of clients. These 5 shifts are absolutely integral, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. So, the first rule I like is stop reacting to bad news. The flip side of that is, what do you call a really reactive tour company? Bankrupt. My advice to you is stop reacting and start proacting. There's a lot of stuff out there that you know you ought to be doing, and it's time to start doing it. You can't be constantly behind the 8 ball. You need to start getting out in front of whatever else is going on out there. Let me walk you through kind of the typical life of a startup hotel or a tourism operation or any travel, tourism, and hospitality industry. So you've got a really awesome product. Maybe it's a new hotel. Maybe it's a new tour. Maybe you've decided to offer Balinese cultural tours. Maybe you're marketing a new market, a new segment. Maybe you're going after the LGBTQ community. It doesn't matter. For whatever reason, you've got something new, something cool. You have something that you can go in out and innovate with and make some money on, and that's awesome. So you decide that, okay, I'm going to start to advertise. All right. And it works. Hey, this is great. You're starting to make money. Okay, well, we've been advertising. We're making money. We're getting busy. We better start doing more advertising. And that's going well, and now we're doing trade shows, and now you're doing this, and you decide to start doing radio and television, and you've got multiple ongoing media placements, and it's going well, and you're hiring staff, and then all of a sudden, crap. Stuff like this shows up in the news. And it's incredibly frustrating, because this is what I found on a mainstream media publication in reference to the Agung Volcano. That's not Mt Agung. I know it's not. That's my point. But let me give you the highly politically incorrect, I'm not politically correct, and by the way, if I haven't cussed yet on the stage, it will happen tonight, and I apologize now. But we have a term actually in the public relations industry that we have a term for clients who like to complain about the media, because it's called mental masturbation, because it feels great, it just doesn't do anything. Right? And that's exactly what's going on. You can complain all you want about erroneous media coverage. You can complain about CNN. You can complain about it. Go ahead, complain all you want. It's not going to do anything. So let's start doing stuff. And what does doing stuff look like? Well, it means getting non-conventional. One of the things that we have studied and we've discovered is, and this is not rocket science, if people know you, they'll actually be far more likely to listen to you. So with that in mind, who's out there that you can actually communicate with? Because chances are good that list is bigger than you think. If you stop and really, really think, and I mean spend a couple of hours and go through your stakeholders, you're going to come up with some really interesting names that you hadn't considered before. Some of these I've lifted off a this is quite openly and transparently, this is a presentation that has been gone through different iterations. Originally I created this, and actually when I met Carol, it was in the middle of the Ebola crisis in the African countries. I have since done this for, I'll tell the story of a number of hotel and tour operators in the slope of the Cotopaxi volcano in Ecuador, so you'll see all sorts of different examples, but one of the big ones that we ran into when it came to promoting and pushing African tourism in the wake of the Ebola crisis was mission organizations. or the African diaspora. There's a large segment of the expatriate Indonesian diaspora. This is probably a really good time to convince them to come back, right? Your inbound agents. When was the last time you actually sat and had a meaningful conversation with them? Sometimes it's your competition. There's where I can give you really shocking stories of where competitors are actually some of the best business suppliers. Different partners, there's all sorts of different things that are going on out there. One of the things that I want to caution you on is, well, who can we talk to? And all they do is go, well, I had a conversation the other day. I'll give you an example. It was a hotel owner, and he said, I have no idea who we would talk to. We have a list of people who've booked with us, but 60% of our business in the past was with Booking.com. And that was it. That was the end of his thinking, right? So we sat and said, well, look, you got this, you got this, you got this, you got this. It's a mental exercise. If you're mentally prepared to give up, well, you may as well just cash in the check and sell off the property. If you're mentally prepared to start getting resourceful, then we can start to get to work. The thing I have drilled into my clients, and it does not matter whether they are Australian or South American or North American or Canadian or Martian, when you're dealing with a situation like this, you need to own that you have a destination, not just a hotel. You don't have a hotel. You don't have a tour company. You have a destination. You have something people want to go to. You have something that people will go out of their way to go to. If you don't believe that, if you think, well, the only reason we get business is because we have the word Marriott in the front of our name and therefore people just show up, right? If you honestly believe that, yeah, you're gonna get screwed over. I can't help you. If you honestly think, if you can buy into the concept of we are a destination, then we can really start to get to work, right? So, own that in your brain. But now that you've got a big list of stakeholders, I want you to start to prioritize them. Because here's the really crazy part. If you figured it all out, there's a whole exercise and a process that we work with to try to determine who's a priority and who's not a priority. But then I want you to ignore them. There are 5 groups, and I'm going to give you the same data, but I'm going to give it to you in a different form. So, and someone once pointed out to me that that looks like a giant extended middle finger, and I will explain why, right? But we're going to start over here with supporters. Supporters are your mom, right? People who love you no matter what. They will do anything for you. They buy from you. They back you up on social media. They do all that stuff. Then you've got sympathizers. Sympathizers like you a lot. 3/4 of the time they like you. Every now and then, 1 out of every 4 or 5 times, you're gonna lose a sympathizer. They're gonna disagree with something, and when they disagree, they're gonna disagree publicly and loudly. But for the most part, they like you. This is your mom, this is your spouse, right? Note the difference, right? Then you've got straddlers. Straddlers are the people who are vaguely aware of where Bali is. They might consider going to Bali, but they may also consider going to Thailand or Hawaii or Disney. They don't really care, right? Then you've got skeptics. Skeptics are a lot like sympathizers. They don't like you at all. They're loud, they're bitchy, they complain, they're crapping all over your Facebook wall. Every now and then, you might surprise yourself, and one of them's going to get all kind of smart on you, and they'll actually say, actually, it's a really good point. And it's shocking. But then, I had to find really hard to find a word that works. Splenetics. And I like to think of it as people who will vent their spleen and cut it out just to show it to you if it will piss you off, right? They will do anything to hate you. You will never, ever, ever win a splenetic. So, 93% of the entire universe are stragglers, about 3% each in terms of sympathizers and skeptics, and about 1% goes to the extreme end. The problem is, we spend all our time over here because well, who doesn't love hanging out with their supporters, right? I mean, that's just comfortable. And splenetics, why? Because they're loud. That's it, yeah. They dictate the agenda. They're the ones who are out there being loud and bitchy, right? Who should we be talking to? No, right? Marketers will tell you to talk to stragglers, but let me remind you, they don't know anything about Bali. They couldn't care less about Bali. This is a very, very expensive market to reach to. Travel and Leisure magazine would love you to be talking to stragglers because it costs a ton of money. But here's the beauty of when you convert a skeptic, where do they go? Yeah, well, maybe not full-on supporter, but they'll end up over here, somewhere in that spectrum, right? Because they're already plugged in. They're already engaged. They already know all the personalities. They already are members of all the different Facebook groups, right? They're already there. So it's when you're in a crisis mode, when you're in a batten down the hatches, I want you to take all of your marketing initiative and all your focus and stop trying to talk to these people and focus all 100% of your energy on 3% of the audience. Because right now, it feels like you're trying to talk to the world. Hey, come to Bali. Bali is safe. Bali is ready. Please, dear God, come and give me money. That's more or less the message that's running around out there. When you don't need to be doing that, you need to be talking to that guy. That's the one who's that close to figuring out whether or not, when you can figure out and have 93% of your budget gets wasted, if you can focus 100% of your initiative on 3% of the universe, that's a brutally effective, missile laser focused form of communication. It is so much more effective for you and for your own marketing team. And how are we going to do that? Comes down to the classic crisis communications module. Who speaks Mandarin? Come on, I'm in Asia. Someone needs to speak Mandarin. That's 2 nights in a row I have not had anyone here. There are 2 pictograms here. It's the Chinese word for crisis. Chinese word for crisis. There's 2 pictograms. The first is danger. The second, let's talk about that. The danger, what's the danger? You got a volcano in your backyard. That's a scary moment, you know, and no one likes the idea of waking up under a blanket of ash. Sure, that's pretty obvious. The second pictogram is opportunity. The Chinese word for crisis is dangerous opportunity. The opportunity lies in the fact people are paying attention to you. You remember, we had all those ads and all that marketing effort and all that budget that we were desperately trying to get people to pay attention to us. They're paying attention to you now. And if you do this right, if you handle the little crises with grace and with dignity and with control, it is so brutally effective. It is by far and away the easiest way to prove trustworthiness, to prove credibility. When you can do that well, it does so much more for your long-term trustworthiness, your credibility, and ultimately your profitability. Let me give you an example. This is a really crappy picture because I took it. But this is Quito, Ecuador at dusk. And I will do this just to make it a little bit easier to see. That is Cotopaxi. That is a volcano. You can see the the hill, that's not a hill, that's an actual volcano off in the background, and you can see coming out at the top, that's not a cloud. That is ash. That is an erupting volcano. It's the exact same type of volcano as Agung. It's not the pretty volcanoes, it's the pissy, ashy, burpy, you know, earthquakey type of volcano. How's that for scientific, technical talk? So, here's the problem. Cotopaxi, we now know, erupts approximately every 100 years like clockwork. And when it does, it makes all sorts of lahar, which is mud and ash and water, come flowing down the mountain and into the valleys and streams below. And that's bad. Here's the thing. It hasn't erupted since 1810. In the 1900s, no one really knew anything about volcanology, and they grew the city of Quito to a city of now 2 million people, which is now in the middle of an active lahar volcano zone, which wasn't a big deal until Cotopaxi started doing that. And then people started to panic the frick out. They were in full-on panic mode. So, there was one particular organization, one particular company that was panicking far more than anyone else. And that's my clients, because this is the same volcano, and this is the roof of their hacienda. They were the closest hotel to an erupting volcano where everyone in the region was in full-on panic mode. They were fully prepared that this was the end. They were going to have to, you know, sell. You won't even be able to sell. You can't even sell that. I mean, there's nothing to sell if no one wants to buy it. You know, it's buried under 2 meters of ash. We got to work. There was a couple of things that were very important for us to start to mentally brace ourselves and prepare for. Step number 1. The volcano's not going anywhere. We can't move it. We can't change it. The volcano is the volcano. Step number 2. The hacienda is not going anywhere. We can't move it. We can't change where the property is. The faster we get around to realizing that this is not a volcano issue, this is a communications and a comfort issue, the better off we are. So we got to work, and we prioritized our stakeholders, and we put together some new programs, and we put together an entire program for Jorge and Maria Jose Perez, husband and wife couple. By the way, this is not a big facility. This is 26 rooms. This is a small hacienda. They brought me in from Canada. I flew down to Ecuador. We spent the better part of a week. We put together, you know, a big communications initiative to communicate to all of those prioritized stakeholders. This is Maria Jose.
So we got our 2 main, our 2 most important clients. We got them after the crisis, or in the process of the crisis. So we got G Adventures 3 months after Cotopaxi started showing activity, and 3 months after we meet with you and you set up a whole strategy. So then we start working with G Adventures, and one of our stakeholders, which was a good one, he decided to move all his accounts to our place because we were not just a hotel, we were a destination. So that was brilliant.
Once they got around to realizing, hey, look, we actually have something really kind of cool here. We're gonna own the volcano, damn straight. In fact, we're not just in the shadow of a volcano. We are the closest hotel to a volcano, right? It becomes a feature. They are now leading the region in growth. They picked up their 2 biggest clients in corporate history after the crisis, right? Because they knew how to communicate. It's not reacting to bad news, and it's not about facts and data. Which brings me to rule number 2. Like I said, I met Carol for the first time when we were running around dealing with the Ebola crisis in Africa. I met Thomas at the African Travel Association conference in Uganda. There's a really funny story I need to tell you about me being detained at Pearson because they thought I was infected with all sorts of contagious diseases after that very conference. I'll tell you later. This is indicative of a lot of the type of communication that was going on immediately in the wake of the Ebola crisis. So Ebola is there. There's Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, those types of places. All the tourists in Africa are over here. They started in Namibia. They worked their way up through, Johannesburg and up into Kenya, over on the far east side. More or less. That's a gross overgeneralization for anyone who's working in West African tourism. I apologize, but for the most part, work with me. So all the money, all the tourists are over in this band. They were trying to point out, hey, look, Paris is closer to the Ebola zone than Johannesburg or whatever else is going on. They were pointing at, look, Ebola, way far away. This is Ebola, no Ebola. This is one that was in National Geographic. It was in a number of different publications pointing out, look, Africa's really big, okay? Right? It's way over there. Right? I saw it in Ecuador. This was Cotopaxi, by the way. Okay, so I can't reach, but there's Cotopaxi. You can see the white dot. That's the snow-packed peak. My client is right there. So we're close to Cotopaxi. Quito is that city up at the top. And so they were pointing out, okay, yeah, this is where we expect the Lahar flows to go. Which was great until someone got the bright idea of superimposing where all the schools and the hospitals in the region go, and they realized that they were all going to die. That was a bad communications decision. I've seen it here in Bali. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, and if anyone is responsible for this, I apologize, but this is crap communications. Bali is still safe for tourism. You're pointing out, and I get it, I get why people are doing it, but you're pointing out a distance argument. Here's 71, kilometers to Kuta, 50 kilometers to Bud. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and none of it is good. And I get why, because the knee-jerk reaction is to point out, oh, it's way over there, we're safe, come on by and visit. Here's the problem with that type of thinking. It just doesn't work. And the reason is really simple. At the end of the day, your clients are dealing with an emotion, and that emotion is fear. Maybe not even necessarily fear for their own safety, but it's definitely fear for their itinerary, fear for their travel plans. They don't have certainty. And what happens is you have facts. And so when you try to address fear with facts, you're going to miss the mark. It's never going to actually hit the target. When you address an emotion with an emotional response, that's when you can actually connect with your audience. That's how you can actually meet your people. I call it the monster under the bed theory. I'm a dad. I have two guys at home. One is 10, one is 8. They're a little bit older for that now, but a couple years ago, especially the younger one, every now and then, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, he'd start to cry because there's a monster under his bed. Who's a parent? Hands in the air if you are a parent. Who's all dealt with the monster under the bed problem, right? So, work with me here. Even if you're not a parent, chances are good you can work your way through on this one, because I have 2 potential responses. Response number 1, I march upstairs, I kick open the door, I say, what the hell is going on? Go back to sleep, there's no such thing as monsters. Or, step number 2, I go upstairs, I sit down beside him, I give him a big squeezy hug, I turn the light on so that he can see, I hold him, I rub his back until he calms down. We look under the bed together, we look in the closet together. I explain that he lives in a safe house and mommy and daddy are right downstairs and everything is fine. Now you tell me which one is going to work better. Now number one is a factual response. There is no such thing as monsters. That's what's going on when you give a factual response to an emotional problem. You can't do it. I saw this cartoon. Dad, there's a monster under my bed. No, it's not. It's in the closet, right? That's what's going on. You're answering the question, but you're not answering the problem when you answer with facts and data. Stop using facts and data. So what do you want to do? So this has been studied. What we want to be is trusted. You want to be trustworthy. They want to be able to trust you. So we looked at the emotional factors that go into trust. How can we get people to trust us? They don't have to like us. They just have to trust us. So, the blue piece of the pie, the one at the top, that is honesty. Am I telling the truth? That's important. You can't get trusted without honesty, but it's only 20% of the pie. That means 80% of the audience is going to acknowledge that you were telling the truth, but they're still not going to trust you, right? That's weird. That's where, and it's not politically correct, and again, I don't care about political correctness, I care about correctness. This is where most men screw up, and that's a gross generalization, and I stand by it. Because a lot of guys will look at that, and I've seen it happen where they say, well, I'm telling the truth. If they don't like it, they can go pound sand, right? It's never going to get you where you need to go. So the middle piece of that pie, the dark green piece, that's competency. Yes, I am a certified volcanologist. I hear, I have been working in the travel and tourism industry for the last 50 years. I'm a longtime Balinese resident. We've been through this before. Whatever your professional certification or credentials or ability to speak with confidence, that's great. So you can be the world's leading expert, who everyone acknowledges is telling the truth, and you've only got 1/3 of your audience, 35%. That's disturbing, that's scary. All right, well, the light green, the olive green at the bottom, that's dedication. That goes to things like, we're not just gonna, solve it and leave and go home that day. We're dedicated to fixing this problem, whatever the issue is. Here is our, emergency supply of masks, and here are the contingency plans that we've put in place, and here are the things that we are doing to protect you. That's a dedication question. Now, there's only one left, which means if you get it right, you're golden. If you get it wrong, you're absolutely pooched. It's never going to work. I tell people, I get it. You're not going to remember 90% of what I talk about tonight. By the end of next week, you're going to vaguely remember that I was tall and awkward looking. That's about it. And I know that, and I get that. But I'm going to tell you, if you remember just one thing from tonight, this is the one thing you need to remember. If I bump into you in the street 5 years from now, I want you to know this next point. The single most important point when it comes to establishing trust with a high-risk, low-trust audience is empathy. They need to know that you know how they feel. It's not about the facts, it's not about the data, it's not about the honesty, it's not about the competency, it's not about the contingency plans that are in place, it's not about any of that. It's all about, yeah, I get it. I live here on the island myself, I know what it's like to be scared. Or whatever empathy point you have. Parents have an easy out on this, because, hey, you know what? I'm a dad and I have kids on this island. I understand, what it's like to make sure that my family is safe, right? You need empathy. When you have that, and only after you have made the connection, then you can hit them with all the facts and the data and the science and the contingency plans and everything else, but you need the emotional connection first. At the end of the day, it's not about facts. What happens is, everyone has these bundles of appetites. They're these driven needs that if they're not getting that need met, they start to go crazy in order to meet that need. And this will, if you haven't eaten for 3 days, you will shove grandma out of line to get your hands on a hamburger. Forgive the overtly North American reference. And you will convince yourself that's okay, that's right, that's normal behavior. It's not. It's irrational behavior. But what happens is you act completely irrationally and you justify it. You convince yourself in your head. This is where trolls come from on your Facebook comments. People who are acting irrationally and justifying their behavior, right? Not related to anything we're talking about. Let me give you the most blatant, obvious example I've ever seen. One of those emotional needs that people have that they act completely irrational about, if that need isn't getting met, is their libido. People do stupid stuff when they're horny. U.S. Congressman Anthony Weiner, and I wish I was making this up, because I've stopped reading fiction because I don't need to read fiction anymore. U.S. Congressman Anthony Weiner got kicked out of the House of Representatives for flashing pictures of his penis on Twitter. That's not rational behavior. He could have really used someone to come alongside him at that moment and go, dude, this is a bad idea. But somehow, in his head, he got to thinking that this was a good idea, right? It wasn't. Don't do this. That's exactly what's going on with your clients. If they feel disrespected, if they feel their emotional driving need to have certainty isn't being met, they will do stupid shit. The least of which is, and the easiest way to justify that is cancellations. But that's where they also come up with shitty reviews on TripAdvisor. That's how they come up with, launching, groups dedicated to let's boycott Bali or God knows whatever else is going on out there. At the end of the day, what's going on right now is that you think your ideal client, your perfect customer, who's planning and dreaming for that wonderful, awesome, once-in-a-lifetime Bali retreat getaway looks like this. And I'm here to tell you, he does not look like this, he looks like this. You need to talk to this guy, not this guy, right? If you keep talking to this guy, you're not being empathetic. You're not hitting the real emotional needs that are going on out there. More African examples. Carol will remember this. I keep throwing you under the bus, sorry. But one of the things when I first showed up on any of this, the key message for the South African tourism community was really, really simple, which is, we don't have Ebola. And it's true, Ebola was 7,000 kilometers away. The problem with that is that that's a really open-ended version of, well, South Africa doesn't have Ebola yet, or that you know of, or anything else like that. You're not actually addressing any of the emotional needs that are going on. We ended up changing it, the 9-word version. You can see the longer, the much more empathy. We've asked ourselves that same question. We live here, we work here, we have families here. But the 9-word version is, we've sent medical teams to the affected areas. We have sent medical teams to the affected areas does two things. A, it indicates compassion. That's important. Secondly, to the affected areas, which is code for not here, right? South Africa led all of the African countries when it came to bouncing back. And that's what we're really here to talk about. The name of this presentation is Bounce Back Even Stronger. That's what we can do. We can use this as an opportunity for growth. Third step, stop relying on the media. I already made the reference to mental masturbation, but you're never ever gonna get what you need in terms of mainstream media coverage. Mainstream media coverage, I'm not gonna be all conspiracy theory and, oh, they're only there to sell newspapers. No, there are reporters and there are newsrooms out there that really do mean well. There are good, hard-working people in the journalism community. They don't get paid enough, but the problem is they're not going to ever completely line up with your agenda. What's happening is people are looking for information. Your prospective Bali customers have heard something about a volcano. This is not the time to deny it. Don't snow over the fact that there's a volcano. Celebrate that there's a volcano. You make that emotional connection first, and after you've hit the emotional connection, then you hit them. And you can have data up the wazoo, but you do not want them looking elsewhere for understanding, for certainty, for what's going on. This is where you can come up with stuff. And this is, I mean, Alex already walked through a lot of the initiatives that he's spearheading now. I'd urge you to sit down with him and take a look and pay really close attention. This is when you need community more than ever, because there are some fantastic source material issues going on in there. At the end of the day, when you put them all together, it basically just boils down to the power of persuasion. The best persuaders make the most money. The best persuaders make the most money. The fourth shift. Lower prices are for losers. You don't want to be a loser, right? And I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. I'm saying that because you will lose at the end of the day. No, not the least of which, no one wants to buy from this guy, right? I don't want you to be this guy, right? That's just a sad corporate image. Stop being that corporate image. But there's been some studies that talk about the impact of reducing prices in a distressed community or in a crisis zone. It's a bad, bad, bad situation to get yourself in. This is a quote from Travel Weekly magazine. Let me find for you the coherent points. For every 10% that you reduce your prices, it's going to take you 5 years to recover. That means that if you take this opportunity to slash your prices by 50% in an effort to try to put some revenue through your doors, you will be paying for that for the next 25 years. Do you really want to put yourself in that situation? No, you don't. Secondly, it changes who you are as a business. It changes your clientele. If you're a $500 a night luxury hotel that's now selling rooms at, $199, you're going to attract $199 type of clientele, and you're just going to be pissing off your $500 clientele who really aren't that upset about Bali in the first place. Don't get into that game. It's what all you're doing is starting. You're voluntarily getting on a slide. And you're just going to start going down a slide. And it's really hard when you're halfway down a slide to stop and come back up a slide. Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to the people who count on you, like your employees or your employees' families. It's a bad situation to get in. I'll give you an example. And I mentioned I would have the story of me in the Serengeti. This is Serengeti Balloon Safaris. They are the largest hot air balloon commercial operator in the world. They do hot air balloon safari rides over the Serengeti in Tanzania. So it's 1 p.m. I'm at my desk and I'm doing what any good, respectable entrepreneur does at 1 p.m. Anyone?
Drinking coffee?
Drinking coffee would be a better answer, right? Come on now.
Have a bit.
What?
Have a bit? Having a bit?
I was fast asleep, right? Absolutely out, right? Phone rings, and I do the thing where I answer the phone, and I do the thing where I pretend I've been awake the whole time, and it was my client on the other end, and he knows me well, and he goes, "I woke you up." I said, shut up, Barry, what do you want? He goes, well, this will wake you up. So he's a seasonal operator. I do a lot of work with commercial hot air balloon providers across the globe. He's a seasonal operator, and so in his off season, he lends his pilots to Serengeti because they get more work and he doesn't have to pay them. It's a happy win-win situation until that day, because one of his pilots got into a fatal accident. And the balloon came down and it hit the ground at about 50 knots, and it started to catapult, and 2 people were thrown from the basket, 9 more, and they were killed. 9 more were injured and had to be airlifted into Nairobi. So not only is this really, really bad because we have 2 dead passengers in the middle of the Serengeti, unfortunately, and this is politically incorrect as all hell, one of them was an American. Because you can't kill Americans. You can kill Africans all day long, no one cares. You kill an American, God forbid, the world has come to an end. So that alone is an indication of why you need to hire a Canadian. But, he says, look, here's the story. Can you call the balloon company owner? They're good people, I vouch for them. Okay, sure. Picked up the phone. The balloon company owner was in the UK. I'm in Canada. The balloon office was in Arusha, Tanzania. The balloon itself was in the middle of the Serengeti. I said, I can't work like this. I'll meet you in Kilimanjaro. He goes, all right, let's go. So hung up the phone, called my wife, said, I can't come home for dinner tonight. She said, oh, okay, where are you going? Africa. That was an interesting conversation. By the time I landed, so got on a plane, landed in Kilimanjaro. It's about 24 hours later. I had been supplying them with, okay, here's what we're going to say in our news release. Here's the standby statement to just buy us some time until we figure out what on earth happened. By the time I landed, they had gone from a $5 million a year operation to a $0 a year operation because Abercrombie and Kent pulled their business. Is anyone with A&K? The problem with luxury African tourism is if A&K walks, everyone walks. They're the 800-pound gorilla of luxury African tourism. And so Abercrombie and Kent walked, which meant everyone else walked, and they lost every inbound supplier that they had. They went from $5 million a year to 0. Client met me as I was coming off the plane. White-faced, stricken, ashen. I mean, this is a bad, bad situation. So not only do they feel horrible because people are dead, but they're losing their business by the minute. And now they're relying on some Mzungu, which is derogatory African slang for a white boy, to come and try to fix this. Trust me. I don't fit in the African Cultural Center. If I was any paler, I'd be albino, right? I am what I am. I'm the tall, awkward-looking Canadian. We got to work, and we put together an empathy-driven messaging campaign by prioritizing our stakeholders, figuring out who we could talk to, who we could ignore, and we realized, really, this boils down to winning not just A&K, but a number of key strategic suppliers, ignoring this over here. By the way, one of the stakeholder communities that we completely ignored, media. We couldn't care less what the media had to say. Limited resources, we're not going to run around and fix it. We were focusing on what matters, and that's why it's so critically important to go through this step with someone who understands what's going on, because it's really easy to stop and kick every barking dog. It's a bad system to get into. We got to work. We were able to point out conclusively what happened. We were able to point out conclusively what we were going to do to prevent that from ever happening again. Most importantly, we backed the whole thing up with a bucket full of empathy That was critically important. And then we ended up doing a bunch of other neat stuff along the way. They developed a completely new industry-leading, pioneering version of a passenger restraint system so that, God forbid, the basket is ever upside down or sideways, that people are going to stay in the basket where they're safe. The basket is designed to act like a giant crumple zone. And that got some trade media publication and everything else, but even with that, we were so critically careful to front load empathy. And here's the thing, it would have been really, really easy for them, because remember, they went from 64 passengers a day at $500 a head to 0, right? And they said, maybe we could do like $99 intro rides, like we can get some stuff going on. This is luxury African tourism here. And they desperately needed a way to keep the lights on, well, until they figured this out. And I said, you can't do it. Here's what we're gonna do, right? And they were scared. They desperately wanted to cut their prices. They needed the revenue through the door, and they were, no, we're not gonna do that. They got to work, and they put together the communications message. 2 years go by. I get on the phone. I call the company owner. Tony, it's Jeff. Hey Jeff, how's it going? Good, just curious. How's business? He goes, well, we're not where we were. Okay, that's understandable. You had a major issue. How bad is it? He goes, no, I'm sorry, you misunderstood me. We're up. We're up 29%. They grew their business from $5 million a year to $8 million a year because they killed 2 of their passengers. It's not that the bad thing has happened. It is how you respond to the bad thing. That's going to determine your trust and your credibility and ultimately your profitability. That was in 2010. I spoke to them in 2012. Another 5 years have gone by. I went and I bumped into them at World Travel Market and ITB. I go to the 2 every year. I bumped into Tony. It's like, hey, how's business? They're up to 11.4. Right? They have more than doubled their business since 2010 because they've proven they can be trustworthy. Right? That is such a critically important growth opportunity, and that's exactly the growth opportunity that every single one of you are in right now. And that's if you follow the 5th shift, which is don't wait. It is really, really tempting in a situation like this to sit there and go, how come the Indonesian government isn't doing something? Well, we need to get everyone to row together and to all communicate. You know, we get to put together a task force and an action plan, and by the time you get all the pieces lined up, it's 8 months down the road, right? How many of you want to wait 8 months before you fix this? I know some of you are probably going to be bankrupt if you wait 8 months before you. I don't want to see an airplane like I saw 7 months from now with 16 passengers on it. That's not a good combination. At the end of the day, you need to get going. I know how tempting it is to sit there and operate from a position of fear, a position of poverty. Oh, we've lost all our bookings. I need to hold on to every asset I have. I'm going to cut all my advertising budgets. I'm going to cut all of our non-essential spending. I need to hold on to whatever, money we have so that I can hold on as long as possible before I have to lay off staff and start selling off my assets. Before you even do a thing, you've already lost. You cannot mentally get into that kind of toxic brain power. At the end of the day, it's a mental game. But you need to consider the consequences of not taking action. And more importantly than that, consider the consequences of not taking action for your staff or for the families of your staff, right? You can't do this on your own. This is where community comes in. This is where groups like Alex and the groups, one of the worst things you can do right now is to cancel your membership with the different networking organizations that are out there. And whether it's Alex's organization or the Chamber of Commerce or the tourism communities that are out there, no, you need that more than ever right now. You need to make the investments. I get it if you want to stop pulling the expensive full, 4-color glossy ads out of Travel and Leisure magazine. That makes sense to me, I get that. But take those resources and don't just sit on them, figure out what you need to do in order to take 100% of all of that marketing effort and initiative and focus it on the 3% that will save your business. That's the opportunity that you have right now. But it is an opportunity, but it's only an opportunity if you recognize it as the dangerous opportunity that it is. So, don't wait, get help now. Look, I promised you that I would show you a strategy that will grow your business. And I think I've done that. I think I've come through. I think I've pointed out some of the really clear and practical tips. But I'm going to hand it over back to Jorge and Maria Jose.
It's not about the press release. I mean, you can copy-paste the press releases from Jeff Chatterton in Cotopaxi, but it's the process, it's the coaching behind it, it's the strategies, it's the alternatives, to ask the right questions that you did ask us at a certain point. It brings out a whole new perspective of the situation and a whole new confidence again. It was a confidence for our employees. At a certain point, we had the administrator there. He was, going nuts. And when he saw that the company was hiring a professional that flew from Canada, that has expertise, and that's here to work on a strategy, it brings a whole set of confidence, not just to us, like to the managing part, but to the rest of the employees. And that is a completely different approach. When you have your guides, your cook, your people from housekeeping, empowered in this process, that there is an alternative, that we are on a safe place, that we will manage. We're going to hold tight, but we're going to manage, and we're going to remain strong. That makes a completely different approach. Speaking from my heart and also from my head, because there has been a lot of thought on the things we've done before and after Jeff Chatterton, before and after the volcano.
I love her. Look, this is the closest thing I'm going to make to a pitch tonight, and I'm not even going to sell a thing. There's nothing for sale here, right? But at the end of the day, you've got a choice, and you can live in that fear mentality where you're just basically hoping and praying and getting angry and upset and confused, or you can come up with a clear path to success. And I want to help you figure out what that clear path is. So here's my offer. My team and I have set aside some time. We have some time next week and over the next little while to sit down and talk to each and every one of you individually. Every business is a little bit different. Every situation is a little bit different, and I'm happy to help answer any questions from the stage, but I think it makes a whole lot more sense to do a much deeper dive into your particular situation and try to get you some clarity, some confidence, some ability to answer some of those tough questions. On the call, we're going to look at three things. We're going to figure out, okay, what specifically is your crisis that you're dealing with? Because it's not about the volcano. What's really going on? And we'll figure out how to turn that into a win. We're going to take a look at the assets and the allocations that you have and figure out how to take 100% of your initiative and focus it on 3% of your universe. And we're ultimately going to get you paid. We're going to build the lifeboat. it's the first step in building a much bigger boat. We're going to get you a lifeboat so that you can survive the next 6 months, 8 months, a year as you're building the bigger boat. It's going to take about 45 minutes to do the call, and whether we work together or don't work together or anything else like that, I promise you it'll be the best investment you can ever make in your business. But here's the catch. It's not for everyone. If you are going to continue to operate from a fear-based mentality, I can't work with you. This is only for the brave. Bravery is not the opposite of fear. Bravery is being afraid and still doing the right thing. That's what bravery is. And if you recognize, hey, look, this is scary, but we need to be out here, we need to be making some changes, we need to be communicating with confidence, that's taking massive action. Yeah, we're going to do this. We are going to save our business. Then we can work together. Obviously, you need to be committed to acting with integrity. I don't work with liars. I have fired clients who want to do anything other than be open and honest about what's really going on, whether it's volcanoes or heaven knows whatever else is going on. Now, why are we doing that? We're going to do it because, quite frankly, I promise you, if you implement these 5 shifts, you will shock, scare, and surprise your competition. I have had clients go through this and buy the assets of their competitors at distressed fire sale prices and then use that to grow. And that just warms the inner cockles of my heart, right? Brutally transparency. If there's a good fit, and it has to be a good fit for both of us, because like I said, we don't work with just everyone. If we both agree that it's a good fit, we may invite you to work with us. We've got a program called Bounce Back Even Stronger that we work with. Tourism companies all over the world in crisis regions as to how to recover and to bounce back. We don't offer it to everyone because we don't allow toxic people into our pool of awesomeness. So if you want the call, that's not a commitment, just a call, all right, this is good. The quick version, come talk to me, give me your card, we'll set up a time. I am on tour this week, so it's not going to happen this week, but I've got some time next week where I'm actually sitting on a beach in Thailand in between a bunch of meetings that I happen to have to be doing, so hopefully we can squeeze that in. The other option, just go to my website, jeffchatterton.com/ try to make this really easy, book a call. So if you go to jeffchatterton.com/ book a call, what's going to happen is it's going to bring up a calendar software where you select your own time zone. Then it'll look up my calendar, and even if I'm in North America or whatever else, it'll give you a list of times that can work. You can pick your time. It'll take you to a one-page, easy, quick, and dirty survey so that you can tell me a little bit about your business, about your operation, so that we don't have to waste time on that. We can hit the ground running. So that's my advice. You can be absolutely, massively successful. You can be the guy or the girl who is running around and buying your competitors' assets and setting yourself up for massive future growth. But you need to give yourself the foundation to do that, and I look forward to helping you figure out what that looks like. So with that, I am going to open up the floor to questions, and to open up the floor to questions, I am going to hand the mic back over to the lovely and talented and questionably attractive Alex. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeff, for stay on the stage. Okay, just one practical thing. While Jeff was talking, I tried to enter your emails and names in my list so I could send you the presentation, and probably 60% of you have terrible handwriting. So I put a computer there. If you don't mind, if you're interested in receiving the presentation and being part of receiving all the things we're doing in the meetups and all these things, we just make sure I've got your email. It's just at the end of the counter, my computer. Any question for me or for Jeff? Yeah. There is a mic just here if you want to stand. If you have a question, you can just come to the microphone. I think that's the easiest way.
It's a question for Jeff about the hot air balloon example, where you talked about using empathy to turn the business around. I just wondered what that empathy looked like. What were the points that you were pushing in the empathy conversation?
Are you talking about my balloons?
Yep.
Yeah, so obviously there's dead bodies on the floor,
Yeah.
right? Not to be overtly graphic, but yeah, we're dealing with a really serious situation, and I think it was really important that we not get into a sidebar discussion on specifics of what happened, specifics of speed of the balloon when it made contact with the ground, specifics of any sort of restraint system or pilot making decisions. What was more important in every piece of communication was a recognition that something has gone horribly wrong, that we feel awful, we understand that you will have a lot of questions and can be kind of upset and scared and angry right now, and we get that. Right? That was the first thing, well before we had any sort of indication of what happened. As we got more information, we were always very careful to, we're getting into the weeds on this, but a lot of people think communicating is talking, and it's not. Communicating is far more effective when you actually listen. And so what would happen is we would have Thompson Safaris would say, hey, I'm worried about X, Y, and Z, and we take note of that. Because remember, we're only focusing on the 3% of the universe out there, so it's a whole lot easier to track that. And then next week, when Roy from Thompson Safaris would call, and we'd have a new piece of information because the Tanzanian Civil Aviation Authority released a new report, we'd say, hey, Roy, I know that you're concerned about X, Y, and Z. And we get that, and I want to share with you what's going on in terms of boom, right? Because at that point, we could have been going 5 miles an hour, we could have been going 50 miles an hour, we could have been flying upside down with purple elephants stringing it, no one cares. We were recognizing where they're at, not up here, but over here. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess because you're focusing on pieces that are really more time for being honest and conversation.
And then even in a larger scale, it's not rocket science to figure out the typical emotional drivers. Either people are going to be afraid, they're going to be pissed off, they're going to feel disrespected, they're going to feel. In Bali, I think the conversation has shifted from fear over safety to fear over itinerary. I can't afford to go to Bali because if I go to Bali, I'm going to be stuck there. That's what they're afraid of. And why don't this year we just go to Chiang Mai instead, or go to that cool place that we saw in Phuket, or Siem Reap, or Hawaii, or Disney, or whatever. You guys gonna let me off the hook that easy? I'll take it. Sure.
My business is actually in Gili Trawangan,
So I'm really not trying to force the mic on you. I just can't hear you.
Sorry, my business is in Gili Trawangan, which is another island near Lombok, but we are obviously suffering on the back of this crisis. So are you interested in those businesses for Bukit as well?
No, if you're not in Bali, I don't care about you. You're dead to me. No, of course.
Because we're suffering in exactly the same ways as the Balinese businesses. So.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself in crisis?
Yeah.
Do you think you can
Definitely.
fix it?
Yeah.
Then we should talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're already working on it.
I come back to, in the last year, I have worked on every single, every single continent. I now have active projects on every single continent. Because now I'm in Asia, and it's already January. If I am doing Australia in March, I just need to find something in South America, and I could have all 6 continents wrapped up before June. So, yeah.
Maybe we can get a bit more light in the room. I'm interested in getting your feedback about the campaign in general and how you guys feel about it. You know, just maybe if you can just throw some comments whether you want to get involved, you've got criticism, anything that you felt how you react to it. I'd be just curious to hear. Who wants to start?
Perhaps more specific as to what.
Yeah, I mean the idea of, you know, yeah, you get it. The getting on board and coming together to somehow reach out to your guests, your customers, your future customers, and inspiring them. You know, the whole thing I talked about. What do you think? Mandapao. Anybody at Mandapao?
Okay.
Be honest, I don't.
Okay.
You should.
All right. Actually, I know about I am in Bali now hashtag since the beginning. Actually, I keep waiting when it's going to be boom. I mean, viral. I was expecting to get viral of the I am in Bali now, but it's been like probably like a month already. A few months. I found that it's still not viral yet.
My fault or your fault?
Well, I did something like saying I'm in Bali now in one of my Instagrams or whatever, but I don't really see that gone viral. So this is just my opinion, if I may, give it a little comment. I think it will be more if you can engage with more influencers or bloggers that will interact with I am Bali now, because there's so many. For us as Mandapa, we receive tons and tons of influencers who like to stay with us, especially for free. Well, there are so many of them, and I'm sure there's so many bloggers coming to Bali every day. So if you can catch on that, I think it will be.
Why me?
Well,
why not you? I mean, that's your business.
You say you have the kind of. This is not my business. This is not a business.
You can't expect other people to sell your business.
No, it's not about that. Well, we were expecting that, of course, my business is my business. Well, we say something that I am Bali now, it's something more into, well, I can just advise them, hey, maybe you can write something on I am Bali now on your Instagram so that everybody can see for it. But I think it's just not viral yet. We expect to be more viral than this, that's all.
I know, I get it, but it's for all of us. You mentioned influencers. I don't know anybody. I don't know any blogger.
Yes, so
You do.
of course we do. So that's why my comment is, I think it's better that we work
Yeah.
on with a few influences. That's
Yeah.
what I say.
It's really it. This is your campaign. This is your campaign. This is your campaign. It's not my campaign.
Because I can see that I am in Bali now. I know that for me, I just look. For me, I'm just analyze this. But the first time I know I am Bali now, but I will keep waiting. I was like, why this is not viral yet? So I think if we can go this on viral,
You're
it'll be
right.
better.
I mean, we are struggling. We are struggling because, I mean, see how many people are here tonight. It's hard to engage, and I mean, that's where we need to support each other, and we need to build it together. So hence why I want to do that every week. And if each of you say, hey, go next week, or I'll go again with someone, and instead of us being on stage, we'll be a round table, and we'll be brainstorming ideas, and I'll ask you to commit to send it to 5 influencers, or you'll commit, say, okay, by next week, 5 influencers, I'll reach out to them, and again, put your hashtag, your logo on it, and own it. And that's your input, and you know a lot of bloggers, fantastic, and everybody's following your brand, and you're a famous resort. That's a great thing. So you can give back to Bali, and this is your impact. This is your superpower.
Two couple things. Can we turn this mic off? That will help. And we'll see if we can.
It's not on. It's already on.
It's lit up. It's just not on. All right. So, and Alex is gonna crap on me for doing this, but I don't think you're gonna get viral. I think you need to stop thinking about getting viral, because viral is going to stragglers, right? You don't care if you go viral. You want to hit the 3%. You need to go micro viral, and you're going to have volume, and maybe one of those is going to catch. Maybe Brad Pitt is going to show up and it's going to pick up an extra million hits, or you know, they'll have I Am in Bali Now with Brad and Angelina kissing and making up, and it'll, you know, awesome, good on you. But you got to remember that for me, an influencer may be my buddy who I haven't seen in high school, and I haven't seen him in a couple years, but guess what? We're still friends on Facebook, right? It's that level of constant, ongoing volume and certainty that the I'm in Bali Now campaign goes. You're not going to go. Felix Unger dove from outer space in a Red Bull outfit. You can't compete with that on the Instagrams and the YouTubes of the world, right? That's what's going on. You're not, I mean, a bunch of people holding up a sign isn't going to attract you know, that kind of level of attention and volume, but it will attract the constant, ongoing, repetitive assurance.
I mean, one of the reasons of I'm in Bali Now is to gather everyone. Forget about the idea of getting the tourists and stuff. This is also an excuse for you guys being here today. And because of it, you've heard of it, and then you're here, and we're talking about other things that are not necessarily related to the campaign, with an expert talking about communication. Last week we had a guy from Nepal, next week a guy from Iceland, and that's just, you know, an excuse to get the community together. And then if someone has a better idea or another one, great. You know, I don't care. This is one that worked, so we apply it. But yeah, it's the same like refill my bottle or book greener. Now we can create some magic together. That's it. You know, in Gili Travangent, there's 80 stations refill my bottle. You know, one girl picked it. She decided to go around with a volunteer, and everybody in the Gilis know about it. It's fantastic. Great. Fly with it. You do what you want with it. And if you have another idea, it's great. Doesn't have to be that. Please, more feedback. But I hear you and I agree with you. But you know, it's not a dedicated team. It's not like we have a budget. You know, it's just a bunch of business owners, each of us doing a little bit. So it needs to be owned by everybody. That's the best way to work. Yeah.
Well, in terms of getting help, I'm really very grateful for your initiative to do this. And actually, I saw the webinar last year, and we had a chat.
That's right. How are you? Yes, I do. Yeah.
Well, still hanging in there.
You good?
But I learned from your point of view, I learned a few things.
Good.
But the main question that people have is, can we assure that nothing is going to happen? And nobody has the answer to that.
No, but what they're looking for in the very nature of what they've just asked is, can you be assured of, right? One of the little life hacks I'll give you, and this one's free. People will say, well, can you guarantee me that Agung isn't going to erupt? Or can you guarantee me that, you know, quite frankly, we all know the answer is no, we can't. But that's not what they're asking. What they're looking for is assurance. They're looking for confidence. They're looking for mental stability, right? One of the things I teach my clients, if you hear the word guarantee, is give it back to them. I can guarantee you we are doing everything we can to make sure that your trip to Bali is an awesome, safe, and eventful one. We're ready for you, right? Explicitly, is it answering the question? No. Is it calming their fears? Yes, and that's your job as a communicator.
Can I ask one more thing? I had a very weak moment last week because there was an eruption on the 11th. And I just came upstairs, and we were like 15 kilometers from Mt Agung, and I saw the start of the smoke. And I put it on Facebook.
Would you like to use the mic so everybody else can hear your question?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm telling you that I had a weak moment last week when I saw the Agung erupt, and for the first time in my life I went live on Facebook and showed that the Agung erupted. So of course all the friends, they said, oh wow, it looks very threatening, and are you safe, and blah blah blah. And so was that stupid?
No, I don't think the volcano is not the problem. Fear is the problem. It's a mental mindset issue. Hey, look, isn't this awesome? Look at this. The ground is alive.
Yeah, I couldn't
Isn't that
help
cool?
myself.
Check this out. I love it. If you're not providing the information, they're going to get the information, and they're going to get it from CNN or BBC or
Okay, because
some highly questionable source.
I talked to a friend, and he said, "Oh, you just killed your business."
No, trust me. Any single person who's ever considering booking at your lovely facility knows all about Mt Agung. They already know. They've already heard the news.
Yeah,
They've
true.
already processed that information.
Yeah.
Right? We can't hide from a giant freaking mountain that's spewing ash. You can't hide from that. Own it, accept it, own the mountain. Absolutely, darn right. This is a fantastic. If you ever wanted to come and see an active volcano, you should come and stay at my place.
Yeah, true.
I mean, we're in Ubud, so it's politically correct to talk about that. But it's really about, it's tantra. You know, it's the masculine and the feminine. You want to be in your positive masculine, reassuring. So they can be surrendering in their femininity and just say, yeah, I know I can surrender with them and I can boom, they will take care of me. It's really what it's about. It's exactly that. So you want to understand how to act, being your strong masculine.
Yeah, and then maybe I can share a tip for the people here, because since I had this chat with Jeff, I started to communicate differently, and then you know, in this group of us, and we started to participate in groups, Bali groups. So we have a background with the Netherlands, and also there's this very big community. I love Bali. There are like 36,000 people who have been here or are considering to come here. So we're active on that every day. You know, about the Agung, but also about the beautiful places in Bali.
Sure.
And I feel that it's helping because we already have people who engage with our own Facebook page.
Yep.
So I think that's good.
It's the way to go.
Yeah, just a
Rock
little
star.
tip. Oh, okay.
No, but it's exactly that. And you were, oh, that's bad, Mike. The one thing you can all do is, you know, follow our page, share the posts, and help get traction through the industry, especially all the professionals, so that more and more businesses get on board. And let's own the narrative. You want to ask a question?
Do we, oh,
In the mic, yeah, you just
That's,
do we have lots of time for questions? Or
Yeah.
is it, okay. I don't know if this is solutioning, but are you suggesting with the empathy point of view and the communication that, for example, we should have people responding directly to our customers at a more detailed level than we are maybe at the moment because of the situation? So, for example, we get, you know, emails or bookings, and we follow up with the emails with communication and empathy, and also information on our website at a more detailed level about the whole volcano situation.
I will give you my all-time favorite consultant answer. That depends. Right? I don't know your facility, I don't know your business, and I don't know your practices. I will say, as a big generic rule, it's not a case of communicating to your clients or communicating to your customers or X, Y, and Z. You need to prioritize your stakeholders and figure out who your most important stakeholders are. Chances are good it's going to be your prospective clients because you're not an idiot, but figure that part out first, and then make sure that all your communications are speaking to that person, right? And if it's a slightly perturbed and agitated customer, that's great, but make sure all your communications are built with talking to that person. And then you're going to pick up, you know, all sorts of other people in the way in the meantime, and that's okay. But yeah, I mean, are you asking, should we have information about the volcano on our website, or?
I guess I'm asking is, should we have more targeted information trying to pick up on the issues that customers might face?
Yeah, it really is a case of figure out who your priority stakeholders are,
Yeah,
and then figure out what their primary concerns are.
yeah.
And once you, what
You're
Like-
touching my stuff. What
Like
what are you doing?
today, today I went to a website of one of the hotels in Bali, and
You went too far.
they have put up on the first page that they will, if the volcano erupts and the customer cannot fly out, they will give them 3 days free accommodation. So things like that. But
Well,
very
and that's,
specific.
yeah, Alice is.
Yeah, so we came up with the page Bali is Ready where we put all the information. And again, it's a community page, so if you've got information that is not there, you can just add it. And we can just add content. And again, it's going to be moving to balinow.org, and it's not a business. So
So we linked to
you can link to that and just say, hey, we have all the information and we got you. That's what I was saying. Yes, we recommend, say, you can stay with us if we have availability. At the end of the day, no one will book when you're going to sell food and other services and spas. It's better that than empty rooms. So it's great. And it's unlikely to happen. The airport closed as a preemptive measure. So it's not likely to happen. So you win in 99% of the case. Why not? It's great. It's good marketing. You're going to grab tourists that would have gone somewhere else otherwise.
What if, sorry, you keep, I'm just gonna say, we're happy to sit and chat with you offline, but it is 9:15. I'm
Okay.
tired.
Anyone else?
I'm
No?
12
Good?
hours back, right?
Okay. Cool guys, don't forget to update your email so if you want to receive everything, be in touch with us and we'll be meeting next week. I'll update you where it will be, but yeah, more of a roundtable with actions, plans and things that we can do. So in the meantime, if you've got ideas, shoot them. I'll be happy to jump on that. And if you want to connect with Jeff, you've got the details. All right, thank you everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you for betelNut for hosting. Have a great everyone.
Okay, fine, guys.